Welcome. Here we're going to be talking about percentiles and what they mean in the context of problems. So the percentile indicates what percent of the data lies below a particular value. So when we looked at z-scores, the z-score tells us where the data is in relation to the mean, how far away from the mean we are. The percentile indicates how far, like kind of above the pack someone is. So if someone gets an exam score and it's the 50th percentile, that means that exactly 50% of other students did worse than them. If they're in the 95th percentile, that means that 95% of students did worse. So something that often gets confused with percentiles is that saying a score is the 95th percentile, does not mean the score, or like for an example, the score on an exam was 95% correct. So it doesn't mean that the student got a 95% as like their grade. It means they did better than 95% of people who took the same test. And this is important. This is basically what they say when professors say when they're grading on a curve, right? So if you grade on a curve, it doesn't really matter how many problems you get right. What matters is how many problems you get right compared to your peers. So if everybody bombs the test, then you could still end up with a decent grade. But it depends on how other people do. So that's what the percentiles is. It's a relative measure because it depends on how other people did on the same test. So we have this idea that the percentile is what percent of data lies below a particular value. We also have what are called quartiles. And these are really just special words for specific percentiles. So we have the first quartile, which is the 25th percentile. So this means that 25% of the values are less than this number. And then we have the second quartile, which is the 50th percentile. And then we have the third quartile, which is the 75th percentile. So again, what we're saying here is for the third quartile, 75% of the data is less than that number, whatever that third quartile number happens to be. I have never seen someone use the fourth quartile. I don't know if that's a thing that exists. That would be 100% of the data lies below that value. So I'm not really clear on whether that's something that's ever actually used. And I've never seen it in any textbook. I've never seen that those words. But sometimes students ask me if it exists. And I guess I don't know if it exists. I've never seen it used. So this is what we talk about when we talk about percentiles. So this is really just a vocab, and it's what we really want you to understand from this particular thing is what I'm saying here in this second sentence, that the 95th percentile is not the same as a 95% grade in a score. it means that you scored better than 95% of the students. And a great example is like when I was in grad school, I took a class called Abstract Algebra, and on the final, I got a 38%. And that was the highest score in the class. I got an A on that test. So even though my score was only a 38%, my grade was an A because I scored better than everyone else in the class. That's what it means to set the curve. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the difference between the raw score and how many people you kind of win out against, how many people you beat. So that is the basics of percentiles. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions.